Thank you, Governor Brown, state and federal legislators, families, friends, and supporters who may be watching this video. Let me start off by simply saying to our recently deployed members of the 116th, welcome home. With our country's move to an all-volunteer force, the United States Air Force cannot go to war without you, without the Air National Guard. Whether politically, economically, or tactically, our future now requires us to employ as a total force. Well, there are countless reasons that this is good for our country. One of my biggest hopes is that this new normal is not perceived by Oregonians as just that, as normal. I know I don't have to tell all of you that deploying in support of combat operations is anything but normal. The joys and sorrows of life continued while you were deployed, and I'm glad you can now embrace them here at home. I want to personally thank everyone who has assisted in this endeavor, not just this group of citizen airmen, but also their families, friends, and employers. It is impossible for our airmen to deploy without your support. Collectively, you make the United States and Oregon stronger, more resilient, and more capable of taking on today's and tomorrow's challenges. Your list of accomplishments and the support you provided to Air Force missions in Southwest Asia is far-reaching and too extensive to share in its entirety. While managing the Arabian Gulf airspace, it was noted that this small unit from Oregon was responsible for the command and control of over 43,000 combat missions that led to 2,600 airstrikes and 3,400 enemies killed in action. In January, after ballistic missiles from Iran struck U.S. interests in Iraq, 116th crews diligently stood fast to manage elevated air defense postures across the entire theater of operations. All the while, you coordinated air refueling missions, tracked and reported targets, and enabled aircraft to successfully deter and disrupt enemy forces across the region. Personal examples also abound. Master Sergeant Payne and his team's work to fund and create Radar Quebec and move it from Al-Udeid Air Base to Al-Dhafra Air Base in 40% of the contracted time at a savings to ASCENT of more than $30,000. Captain Dan Hicks' envoy efforts to Saudi Arabia after the Aramco oil fields were struck, and his project officer work in developing continuity of operations plans, enhanced security and command and control across the CENTCOM AOR. And the great work of Master Sergeant Ed King as the first sergeant. It ensured quality of life issues were quickly addressed so that our airmen could focus on mission accomplishment. Whether addressing lodging issues, coordinating emergency leave, or leading a first shirt symposium, the care of his airmen clearly came first. I cannot overstate the critical role the 116th played while overseas. Only a couple decades ago, a call-up of our guardsmen for combat operations garnered national attention. But now, as I mentioned before, it occurs so often that it can go unnoticed, especially in the COVID environment we are living in now. And that is why it is so important to recognize your demobilization, even if we have to do it virtually. Every day of your deployment, you're supporting combat operations where American lives were at stake. And it is important that our fellow Oregonians know that we have sent people into harm's way. As we deploy more frequently and recurring deployments become normal, our risk is that they no longer garner public attention. Please share your stories, as we have today, so that all Oregonians can appreciate the great work their citizen airmen are doing for them. I'm very proud of the example you have set, not only for the Oregon National Guard, but the entire U.S. Air Force. Your efforts and teamwork throughout this mission have contributed to the continued security of a very volatile area where events have global impacts and long-lasting consequences. And thank you again to the families for sharing your loved ones for these past 6 months. To cover down on the home front, on top of dealing with the COVID pandemic, could not have been easy. Finally, to the 116th ACS, thank you for raising your hands and for your hard work and dedication while downrange. Well done.
To the men and women of the 116th, welcome home. I want you to know that I thought of you often throughout your deployment and prayed for you while you were gone. Your accomplishments while overseas were incredible and impressive, to say the least. Over the course of 7 months, you were deployed to 3 locations: the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Jordan. Your responsibilities included the command and control of 43,000 combat missions, involving 2,600 airstrikes and 3,400 enemies killed in action. You stayed strong and focused even in the face of unprecedented military escalation. And just as importantly, you remained great ambassadors for the Oregon Air National Guard. And for that and all of your military accomplishments, I personally thank you. Your deployed group was quite diverse and included members not only from Oregon, but also from Washington, Utah, Connecticut, Iowa, Wisconsin, Kansas, Hawaii, and Georgia. In total, your team was made up of 102 airmen, including approximately 72% drill status guard members and 28% full-timers, a true representation of our nation's citizen airman force. Now comes the period of transition, a time to return for many of you to your civilian jobs or to school to continue your education. I want to take this moment to express my sincere gratitude to the employers of our drill status guard members who deployed. Their support is absolutely key to what we do and to the overall national security of the United States. To show my appreciation, I plan to send personal letters to your civilian employers, thanking them for the sacrifices they too had to make while you were away. I've long believed the Air National Guard can only be successful if all parts of our triad remain strong. That triad consists of you, our military service men and women, your families, and your employers. Know that it is not lost on me how incredibly difficult it is for families to have you, their loved ones, gone for months at a time. They, no doubt, experienced loneliness, had to parent children alone, keep the bills paid and the house cleaned, grocery shop and put meals on the table, oftentimes with no one to help. Deployed life for you, our military members, is tough to be sure. You work long hours and are required to remain focused on the mission. But for those who are left behind, to carry on life's daily activities can often be just as challenging, with added responsibilities, problems to solve alone, and unpredictable issues that arise, not the least of which was COVID-19, adding to the struggles that your family members had to face while you were gone. Know that I do understand these hardships, and I thank all of our families from the bottom of my heart for the sacrifices they too had to make. Our families are a key part of the triad I mentioned earlier, and without their strong support, the foundation of the Air National Guard is in jeopardy and at risk. In closing, as members of the 116th, you represent the best of the best. Few Americans, less than 1%, serve in the armed forces today, and even fewer have the privilege and opportunity to execute missions overseas with as much purpose and sense of accomplishment as what you just experienced. Savor the memories of your deployment, treasure the bonds and the friendships that you built, and immerse yourselves now with your friends and families who have missed you so much. These times, these special moments with your loved ones are to be cherished. Thank you for being such great patriots and for your passion and commitment to making our world a better and safer place. It's an honor to serve alongside you. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Colonel Neil Unruh, Wing Commander of the 142nd Wing. And I wanted to say welcome home and thanks to the 116th ACS. When you guys left, I was the Operations Group Commander, and during the time you were gone, I became your Wing Commander. And from before you walked out the door until the time you came back, I could not have been prouder than the service that you rendered. And I want to say thank you especially because you answer your nation's call, and you rendered that service through yourselves as well as through your family that missed you while you were gone. And during the time you were gone, I'm sure none of us could have predicted all the events that would have happened in our country. And so you were overseas serving faithfully, worried about your family members back home. Your family members are back home, worried about you overseas serving faithfully. And all of you sacrificed, all of you answered your nation's call, and I could not be more proud of you. And so on behalf of your country, on behalf of your state, and on behalf of your wing, I just want you to hear from me personally how proud I am of the outstanding and the fabulous service that you gave in support of the mission. And I wanted to personally reach out and say thank you. I know there's several thanks all up and down the chain of command, and I don't want that to go, I don't want you to get too used to that because I want it to be new and fresh every time you hear it. It's sincerely from the top to the bottom of the organization of the Oregon Air National Guard. we are proud of you. You served faithfully, and frankly, you made us all better for your service. So thanks from the Portland International Guard Base to my favorite GSU out in Astoria. Thanks so much for all you do. I really appreciate your service, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of your demob ceremony virtually.